Hi everybody. I literally stayed up all night to write this for you, so I hope you don't mind me read a bit more than is usually the case. There will be no fancy pictures. We are going to do this the old-fashioned way, campfire style, or maybe better, bedtime story style, because I'm going to be reading it. It's going to get a bit poetic and philosophical, so I hope you don't fall asleep. I mean, if anybody falls asleep, it's probably going to be me. So if you have a meeting with me today, I'm really sorry for you. As you have just heard, my name is Mirko TOPALSKI, and I'm the Chief Executive Officer of iPix Entertainment. iPix has been in the business of making games for the past 9 years. You probably haven't heard of us, though, and that's okay. Partly due to the fact that we are based in Serbia, and partly due to the fact that we just recently became a successful studio and entered a time of rapid growth. Now, this is really cool because I can move around, but my paper is here, so unfortunately makes no sense to move around. Anyway, I was recently called to write a column for the oldest Serbian computer magazine, Svet Kompjutera, roughly translated as Computer World. When I wrote my first draft, a good friend of mine, who is the editor of the magazine, read it. And he told me that the readers will think that I'm crazy, that I'm a totally mad person. He told me that average consumer of that magazine would not understand, so I rewrote the column to be standard, usual, boring, a million times heard story. And that's funny because I think this is exactly what is happening in the games industry. Today, however, I am so glad that I get to talk in front of you, highly intelligent and creative folk. And that is mostly not because what I am about to say is hard to understand. No, not at all. Quite contrary. It is because I don't understand it either, and I really need your help. So, that said, this short talk will be more about questions, because as we all know from the famous science fiction book by Douglas Adams, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, answers are nothing without good questions. So, what are the questions, or rather, what is the question? The question is something that hopefully we all ask ourselves each and every day. But now this question is more than that. It has been asked by industry professionals like the YouTube show Extra Credits on several occasions, but it has also been brought to the attention of general public by a Comedy Central show that we all know and adore. I am, of course, talking about the South Park. And if this subject is the theme of South Park episode, then I think it is indeed very important. The question is, where is the fun in games, or where has it gone? Fun in games are basically a synonym for me. Fun is the essence, the holy grail of games. But it appears to be less and less present in our games of today. It appears to me that it is being pushed out by new business models such as free-to-play, for example. So let us take a look at what Matt Stone and Trey Parker of South Park say in this short compilation made of clips from the latest episode. So, I mean, what is South Park accusing us of? They are comparing us, or more precisely the free-to-play model, to the alcohol industry and saying that we prey on the addicts. They say that our whale users are mostly addicts with serious problems that we exploit. I imagine a book can be written on this subject alone. However, my focus is the next thing the free-to-play model is accused of, and with it, all of us, the game development community. South Park argues that we are keeping our free-to-play games deliberately barely fun, so that a player can purchase more fun, because if the game was too fun to begin with, there would be no reason to spend the money, thus there would be no revenue for us. This raised my interest because for some time now I have been having a feeling that the games are getting less and less fun in this particular business model. So let me rephrase my question in a more poetical way, because as I said, it's going to be poetical and philosophical. So, in the sea of platforms, markets, monetization methods, business models, game genres, advertising techniques, user acquisition, and ever-increasing hunger for profits, have we lost our way? In our quest to beat the darkness of oblivion that surrounds us and to find the light of visibility, have we lost the holy grail of games? Have we lost the fun in games? I'm sorry if this is a bit too depressing for the first opening ceremony, but it gets better, trust me. It's going to be cool. Everything's cool. Fun is there. So for some time now, we have been witnessing yet another transition of the industry to yet another business model. I'm talking, of course, about the much talked about free-to-play model. So far, this model appears to be one of the most profitable ever, especially for smaller studios that could not have dreamed of such revenues that are comparable or exceed the AAA industry. So obviously, this model is really good for our bank accounts, but really bad for overall fun and enjoyment a person can get out of our games. Some people say we're in the business of making games. Some say we're in the business of selling games. Some say we're in the business of making money. I always thought that banks and investors were in the business of making money, but apparently we are in this business too. And money, as we all know, has all too often been an enemy of creativity, innovation, and fun. This is because those who had money always made those who created content create the content that sells, instead of the content that is innovative, creative, instead of art, or in our case, instead of fun. Now, this is nothing new. It has been so almost forever. But today, maybe due to the specific method of getting that money, or because for the first time in history there is no limit to the money that can be taken from a single user, it appears that this balance between money and fun, which has always been at an equilibrium, is broken. Developers generally want to make games, and in my mind, a game is basically a synonym to fun. Fun is the holy grail of games, as I have said before. So I don't need to explain this to a lot of developers here. Developers these days are like musicians. You play at a bar where the audience demands, and you play what they demand, and then when you get back home, you work on your symphony that nobody needs. You work on your passion project. Nonetheless, we, like every artist out there, want our art to be viewed and consumed by as many people as possible. But do we really want our art consumed, or do we actually want enjoyed? Because those two are quite different, in my opinion. So, are games art, or are they a product? Like always in life, the answer lies somewhere in between. I cannot see how a synergy of all existing arts can be anything except art. Yet there are so many games out there for which I would never use this term. We need to view games as both. We can't be yin or yang. We can't be black or white. We need the order restored and the complementary yin and yang of game development. The money and fun must be brought back into balance. Being a CEO of a 200-people company, I totally understand the value and necessity of earning money and making products. Actually, I would choose it any day of the week over being a starving artist. But that said, we need to not lose sight of what games are all about. Once we have enough money, if such a concept exists in modern society, we need to start returning to the industry. We need to organize indie events and help indie developers because it is them who will usually drive innovation. We need to be corporately responsible towards fun. We need to be fun green or fun friendly, eco-friendly when fun is concerned. Now, it could be that I am idealizing the games of my youth, as is common in human psychology, or it could be that games are truly becoming less fun. No scientific test on this subject has been done, as far as I am aware, but here is an idea, and hopefully somebody from the scientific community pulls it off. Imagine we put the head of a player in one of those medical brain scanners while he or she was playing a game. I'm sure scientists by now know which brain areas are active or what substance is produced when we are having the most fun. The experiment would give a group of players old premium games and give another group of players new free-to-play games. And the third group of players would get new free-to-play games, but with the ability to spend as much money as they like, just so that the odds are fair. I would really like to hear the results of such a study, but in my stomach, I believe that such a study would show that old premium games are actually more fun and more enjoyable. I also believe that games as an industry have mimicked the real world around us. Some say that the world of today is decadent, that we live in a time in which moral values are gone. So games are just following in the footsteps of society. That might very well be so. But another way to look at this could be that everything is as it always was. The society was always this decadent, but today, due to amazing technology and social media, we are able to actually know it and follow it all. To quote Battlestar Galactica, instead of the religious books by which it was inspired, this has all happened before, and it will happen again. But let us dwell on the subject of society for a moment. Are we really to blame for what is going on in the industry? Is it not the player, the consumer, who is at fault here? After all, we just make the product that they want to buy. We just follow best practices. When something earns a lot of money, all of us copy it, and thus it is the user who is actually killing the fun in games. Again, it might very well be so, but this raises the age-old philosophical question of what is older, the chicken or the egg? Unfortunately, here I cannot offer a wise answer. If somebody took a huge amount of money and marketed a jazz or a classical tune, would it ever sell as well as a new Lady Gaga track? I just don't know. All is not so dark though. A good trend I have noticed amongst the developers and publishers alike is concentrating on retention instead of revenue, at least in the beginning. This is great. This is a light at the end of the tunnel. But big retention means you have made something that most people will like. And history has shown us that all too often, most people will want something that is not good at all. I also hear things like, make a great game and the money will surely come. This is indeed true and is a great way to surpass the problems you are facing. But the truth is, unless you have millions of dollars to spend on marketing and user acquisition, the chances of success are almost non-existent. If you do succeed, you will be a huge statistical error or an exception that proves the rule. Making a fun game is a prerequisite to success, but unfortunately, all too often, it is not enough. And there is another dilemma here. Why would you make a big, complicated, beautiful art game if you can make a smaller, simpler game that will earn more money, or at least the same amount of money? Hopefully, because love conquers all, and you love what you do. So, for every regime to be legitimate, it needs an opposition. Though it is small, it does exist. Here and there, I hear players saying things like, I want to buy the game, I want to own it and enjoy it. Once I have bought it, I want nothing in the way of my enjoyment. However, as even the big AAA publishers are experimenting with hybrids, paid games that still contain microtransactions, we might come to a moment where premium content is completely gone. We justify this by saying that we have simply not limited the amount a player can spend if he or she so desires. But the truth is that we are selling fun by the spoonful. Maybe consuming fun in this manner simply reduces it. Maybe too much of it goes to waste. Maybe too much is spilled from the imaginary spoon on its way to the player. But enough of my ranting. I have asked way too many questions and not enough answers were provided. So what is actually going on right now and where do we go from here? Is this an evolution, a revolution, or a terrifying demise of fun? People have historically been afraid of the new, of the unknown. Maybe I'm simply too afraid. Maybe this is the logical course of the evolution of gaming. But if it is so, I choose to be the opposing force, because I cannot stand by and watch the fun die. Hopefully we are as good at inventing new fun as we are at inventing new business models. Something will come along, I'm sure. History has shown us that it always does. So, a few of my suggestions to this moral, philosophical, and business dilemma of free-to-play. So there is actually a second slide. Just a moment. I'm not prepared for this. No. Anybody knows what's the key for next slide? Maybe this works? No? Well, okay, then I'll just read it for you. The suggestions are, be generous with content, be generous with fun. Try and make the best game you can, regardless of the money you think it will earn. Player must want to give you money out of respect, and as a sign of gratitude for the joy you have given them. While playing the game, ask yourself, is this as fun as Monkey Island? Am I enjoying this as I enjoyed my favorite game when I was younger? Do I enjoy this as I enjoy reading a good book or watching a great movie? If you hit it big time, give back to the community. Invest in indies, in gaming startups, in gaming education. It is from them that the cure will arrive. Let me finish by quoting a famous poem of Dylan Thomas that was cited so many times before, and most recently in the new Christopher Nolan movie Interstellar, which, by the way, is fantastic. The song was written for a dying father, but I believe it can be applied here for dying fun in free-to-play games. The original poem goes like this: do not go gentle into that good night. Rage. Rage against the dying of the light. And I hope Dylan would not have anything against me slightly modding his poem to go a bit like this. Rage, rage against the dying of the fun. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed the conference.
Thank you, Mirko. Do we have any questions?
No questions, I guess. Nobody can argue with Dylan. There's a question right there.
As someone who's been talking about free-to-play for a very long time and had wrote about the problems with going too far in monetization about 3 years ago. I find this very depressing. Free-to-play is a model, sure, but what we choose to do with it is our creative intent. And I think what we're facing is not a moral philosophical issue. I think what we're facing is a lack of creativity and a lack of use of the model, which should be empowering us to reach wider and more glorious audiences. And rather than treating it as a Darwinian process, we're assuming moral angst instead. Why don't we just get off our asses and make better games?
I completely agree with you, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It took me 5 pages to say that. Thank you so much. Anybody else?
Anybody else?
Well, enjoy the conference.